Hey everyone, Kelly Stelzer here with your Dane County Real Estate Market Update. Today we're looking at the July 26th numbers for all residential real estate in Dane County. That includes both single-family homes and condominiums combined. And there's actually a pretty interesting story in the numbers this month. So let's start with sales. In July we had 707 residential sales in Dane County, which was 6.8% higher than July of last year. That's a pretty significant increase in activity. And we look at dollar volume, July was even stronger. We had about $392 million in closed residential sales, up 6.1% from a year ago. So we're seeing more transactions and we're seeing more money moving through the market. So let's take a little bit of time to talk about prices, because this is probably where most of you guys are going to be most interested. The median sale price in July was $485,000, which is 3.4% higher than July of 25. The average sale price was about $555,000, although that number was actually down just slightly, maybe 0.7% from last year. But the important takeaway here is that home values continue to move higher, but we're not seeing any runaway price appreciation. It's a much more moderate increase than we saw during some of the more extreme years of the market. So how fast are homes selling? This is another number that I think tells the story. The median days on market in July was only 8 days. That's essentially unchanged from a year ago. So even though we're seeing somewhat more inventory and a little less competition than we had at the peak of the market, well-priced homes are still selling very quickly. And in July, sold for an average of about 0.2% over the asking price. That's important because it tells us we're still in a competitive market, just not quite as aggressive as we've seen in recent years. So let's talk a little bit about inventory and what's happening with that right now. Inventory is probably the biggest change buyers and sellers are feeling. As of August 17th, Dane County had 1,243 active residential listings with 321 pending sales. We're currently sitting at about 2.24 months of supply. That's still a relatively tight market, but it's giving buyers more options than they've actually had in the past. In July, there were 777 new listings, which was down 1.9% from last year. And there were 572 new accepted offers, down 5.5% from July of 25. So we're seeing a little bit of slowdown in the number of buyers entering the market, even while overall sales remain strong. And when we step back and look at the year so far, the market continues to look healthy. Through August 17th, Dane County has recorded 4,291 sales. That's up 3.9% from the same period last year. Year to date, the median sales price is $469,000, up 4.4%. We've also had 5,847 new listings come on the market, up 4%, and 4,600 new pendings, up 4.6%. So what's my takeaway? I would describe the Dane County market right now as healthy, competitive, but more balanced than it has been in the past. We're seeing more sales, we're seeing higher prices, very low days on market, but we're seeing more inventory and slightly less buyer competition. For buyers, that's good news. You're still dealing with competition on the best properties, but you have more choices and a little more negotiating room than you might have had a couple of years ago. For sellers, the market's still very favorable, but very important, pricing correctly from the beginning is a must. The market is telling us that buyers are still there, they're just becoming more selective. So that's your Dane County residential real estate update for July of 26. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or just want to know what your home is worth in today's market, reach out to me. I'd be happy to put the numbers into perspective for your specific neighborhood. I'm Kelly Stelzer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next month.